Caramba.
All right, I think we should be live. So hopefully we'll get some folks in the chat letting us know if our audio and video is good.
Caramba.
So, all right, I think we should be live. My audio is good because I'm previewing the stream. So say something, Steve.
I dream of a day when Shakespeare writes Arch Linux, code for Arch Linux.
Very well said.
I dream.
All right, so I'm previewing the stream. Audio and video looks good.
There.
Sounds good. We
You're
should
live.
Be good. All right.
We're live. We just showed up on my website.
You got it. All right. Yeah, we've already got some folks in the chat. Metalfire, I can hear you. All good on the audio. Says classified. Two bald guys. Says Ragnar.
Ay caramba.
If you notice, there is no receding hairline there. There's actually hair there.
Yep.
Now, Steve, I can't speak for Steve. I can only speak for myself.
Well, I got inspired by DT here, so I got myself a machine.
We got Jean-Michel joining us.
Jean-Michel, salut mon ami, ça va?
Salut, comment ça va?
Ça va bien. Aujourd'hui, c'est comme on dit en anglais, Lent Sunday pour nous les orthodoxes.
Ah,
Donc,
d'accord.
on aura
Ouais.
Pâques la semaine prochaine.
Ah ouais, alors tout
In
va
the
bien.
chat, apparently we're two Walter Whites. I don't know if you ever watch Breaking Bad. You're Walter White from Breaking Bad.
Now we're three people with a skate an ice rink on the head.
Yeah. So I have 3 millimeters.
Yeah, in the chat it says I'm also voluntarily bald. Yeah, that's what it is. None of us are really bald. We just
Oh, big. What the hell? Big Pod tells me one thing, and now he shows up on here.
Yeah, but I told him he had to be here.
Oh, okay. If
you
told
him,
then,
you're nice. You told him he could
surprising.
skip. Well, we've got a lot of things to talk about since our last chat about 4 weeks ago. Obviously, there's a lot of news, plenty of news.
But before we begin, I want to start it light, on a light note, before we take on the heavy hitters.
Okay.
If I may. I want to talk to you a little bit about DTOS.
Okay.
There's this thing you can do where you can create a script, a bash script, to replace Calamares, because I saw your video and I was so happy when you said the following words: I am not going to use Calamares.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. For what it does, it's more work than...
Respect. Utmost respect for that, because that's what I'm doing. You can do it via a bash script that people can run in Arch root after Arch install.
Sure, I could easily create a bash script that runs through the base Arch install. That's not a problem. Yep. I don't want to do that.
Why should you?
Yeah, I don't want to do that because I would have to make some very opinionated choices for people, and I would rather people run through the Arch install themselves and install the file system they want, partition the drive the way they want. Like, I don't want to just do an automatic partitioning for someone. I understand new users like that, but people like us would hate that.
No. That's not what I meant. You misunderstood. A bash script that users have to run in Arch root after having done the Arch install, gone through the Arch install stuff.
Well, that's essentially,
That's what I'm doing currently for KDE Plasma. I wrote a script that will install Plasma. Everything else the user has to take care of, like drivers, because every user is different. Every users have their own configs and whatever. But if they want what I have, they can do it, because an Arch install, once you do everything, skip the profile section, skip the additional packages section, and let it do its thing. It will prompt you if you want to root into your system. Of course, you need to do that because you don't have anything installed yet. So they select yes, and that's when they run your script or my script, and that's when it's going to do all the magic. Our magic. basically.
Well, for what I did with the DTOS script, it would they could go ahead and chroot and run the DTOS script right then as it's currently done.
Yeah.
And it'll work, or they can wait until they log in as their user and run it, and it's still. So the way I've done my script, it shouldn't matter.
Well,
because it's just adding my repos and installing some packages anyway, like whether they're chrooted or they log in later.
Because mine installs actually Plasma. So it's for users who want to install Plasma, not the Arch install way, but the proper way, basically. I added 4 profiles: minimal, full, customized by me, or selective. Selective meaning they have all the meta packages. Every time for all 12 meta packages, it will prompt them what packages they want from each meta package.
Well, since doing that live stream the other day where I was working on DTOS, the script to fix it, which the script looked fine and installed perfectly on that stream on Manjaro. I was actually surprised that the first time I ran through it, it worked. But then later I was getting complaints from people that had run through it that it didn't work on any other distribution other than Manjaro. That it would error out. Pac-Man would complain about downloading packages. Packages were too slow. It was timing out from GitLab. And I couldn't figure out what the problem was. It's never been a problem. And
it depends on people's connections, I guess.
No, because it's fine on Manjaro, which is weird.
That's the inverse case.
It is Manjaro holds packages back, and they're on a different version of curl than every other Arch-based distro. There is a bug in curl that has a problem with Pac-Man downloading repos off of GitLab with that version of libcurl. And if you downgrade curl, it works.
Okay.
As weird as that is.
Well, actually doesn't sound that weird, honestly.
Well, it's, people complain about Manjaro. Like it's buggy and, they shouldn't hold packages back. But hey, here's one for Manjaro. That's a win for Manjaro right there.
I don't know if you realize, DT, but their ISO is still from December.
Wow. Yeah, I did realize that because I've downloaded ISOs recently to test. But yeah.
It's from December. Where are they? I'm running. I have Manjaro on my HTPC, and it's 1,200 days old. The kernel, and I updated the kernel using their tool to 6.8.5.
Yeah.
It wouldn't mount my NTFS drives anymore because all my movies and TV shows are stored on NTFS drives. So I deleted all kernels, just kept the LTS, and it's still fine. And I haven't received a single update for anything but Flatpak.
Yeah.
Honestly, if your operating system has a problem being updated on more than a month at a time, so the updates are older than a month, you have a problem with your operating system.
Dude, you're talking to a geek here. If there's no update every day, I delete that operating system and I install something that has an update every day, if not every hour.
Well, that's not a problem on Arch.
That's me. That's me. I'm weird like that.
It's nothing for me to update and then the next day have 600 updates, on the very next day.
Yeah, yesterday there were 334 updates on Arch.
Great, it's nothing for me to update every day either, but...
Well, I'm talking about having the number of updates in one day. Like I can update today, and depending on which packages, especially if all the Haskell libraries see a update, I could have 600 updates the very next day.
Well, my operating system only has one update every day.
Yeah, the image.
It updates the whole thing. Yeah.
The entire image.
But
yeah, a lot of people are
if you cannot
testing Bazite
update 3 versions back, or like even 2 months back.
Well, obviously, the people that install Manjaro, they're going to get it up to date because it'll be an updated system after they install it. But the ISO, that old of an ISO, 4 months old, that's not guaranteed to work.
Yeah.
Why not?
No, and there's a problem on Manjaro currently, and they will fix it in the upcoming ISO. I talked to Philip. He said they're on it. It's coming with the Plasma 6 ISO, but the problem with that is even if you update to the latest after installing Manjaro, there's a problem where they ship a libvk3d or Vulkan 3D, whatever driver, which causes OBS to crash on launch. It won't launch until you uninstall this specific package. They're gonna fix it, but
and I still
whenever
have
the next ISO comes, maybe in 9 months.
Why wouldn't an ISO that worked 6 months ago?
I mean, it'll work. I mean, you can still boot the ISO. The problem is you're going to have literally every single package on the system need to update after 4. Like, it would be such a massive update. The likelihood of you rebooting after the installation and things working are a lot lower with an ISO that old.
Again, that's the problem of your operating system, not the problem of it being an old ISO. If it's an operating system, you cannot update for 6 months. A system that's 6 months old.
No. Yeah, with an Arch-based distribution, like you really need an ISO every month at the most. Like if they wanted to go every 2 months, I guess it would be okay. But going past 2 months, that's just, that ISO's too damn old.
Well, this comes.
You can imagine like Plasma, if they were shipping Plasma 5, whatever, and then all of a sudden they move to Plasma 6. You're talking about 1,000 packages have to be updated from the ISO that you booted to where it's at now.
Which brings me to an interesting subject that our boy Big Pod is going to have a grin on his face after he hears. Yesterday, I was watching Chris Titus Tech's stream, and as soon as he updated to Fedora, the one that Fedora 40, the one that ships without X11. He started on Plasma 6. His Plasma shell continued to crash and unrecoverably. He had to revert back to a previous snapshot with Plasma 5, because every time he upgraded to the image with Plasma 6, Plasma shell would crash.
Well, here's the thing with Fedora, and I've actually played with Fedora KDE 40 in a VM. Wayland, obviously it's Wayland only. Yeah. But here's the thing. And people, I say this every 6 months when Fedora releases, because people will try it out and things, some people will have problems. Fedora is not an LTS distribution. Fedora is in no way like Ubuntu, for example. Ubuntu, all those releases, they plan on having support for all of them for at least 3 years for the community flavors. And obviously for the main edition, you can do 5 years or even 12 years if you pay for support. Fedora this is a testing ground. This is essentially a beta release. You can run it for the next 6 months to 12 months. And then after that, you need to be on a different version of Fedora so you can be our guinea pig for the next release. It's not designed to be a stable distribution.
It is meant to be a stable distribution. It's not meant for you to be on the same version of a repository for years at a time.
What, you have to upgrade your repositories, and if it was supposed to be for beginners,
that's a really easy thing to do.
Yeah, but it's not tested like they're going to ship the kernel that was just out yesterday. They're going to ship Plasma 6.0.3, whatever. Like they're not.
I have to disagree. It's quite well tested. Knowing what I do know, it's quite well tested.
How can you test something that just came out? Like I understand they test it, like people are running it, but you can't test the software that's just coming out, Big Bud. It's not like an LTS kind of desktop distribution where they run something for several weeks or even several months, and it's still on the ISO when they release it. That version, right?
Fun fact: almost nothing releases the same. This is the same, or even most of the time the same week that you get it on into the what's called the repository.
And Fedora is one of those. I was talking about updates, kind of like Arch updates. Fedora is one of those you get a ton of updates all the time too. Like if you just installed Fedora last week and you run an update, you might have a couple hundred updates already.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I have enough.
I installed it, Big Bud.
I have enough systems.
You can say no all you want, but I actually have some installations of it.
There we go. Let's see what my
378 updates right now from Aliens. Thank you, Aliens, for correcting Big Bud. He meant yes. He didn't mean no.
Let's see my last change log on my laptop. what it changed. And mine is a bit more. Mine has additional packages, so it's
not
a
my
bit
first
more,
rodeo with Fedora. I know the
and
update
some of
schedule.
them are really insane. So I could
What-
be like really.
what-
But Plasma
big-
6 on Fedora looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous, but Plasma
yeah.
Shell keeps crashing.
Yeah, but the problem is, being
there is a
Wayland
package
only,
for
they're
it.
trying to push Wayland
There is
forward.
a package
Again,
for
that's-
X11.
Hmm?
There is a package on Fedora 40 for X11.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you have to, but users have to.
Go out of their way to get it. Yeah.
Yeah, as Stack called it, he can layer it up on top of the image he's using.
No need. If he's using Bazite, it's already fixed.
Go leave the call and update your machine then. I don't have to leave the call because I've got some VMs of Fedora and just pull up a VM and let it update it. It caused the stream to buffer. We don't want to watch a VM updating.
Just change log. There it is. Okay.
But yeah, it's I don't know. I do have the Plasma Shell crash issue on Arch, but it recovers and that's it. I can use it. But on Bazite, for whatever reason, it wasn't recovering. It was just crashing and not recovering.
No.
But
Okay,
for me,
fun
I
fact.
do cover it. It happens without me touching the computer or with the computer having anything open. If I leave it and come back, I see a big message, the dialog box saying Plasma Shell crashed and recovered. And the best part is, now it doesn't bring everything down with it. It recovers and you can pick up and continue working on whatever you were working on. They fixed that at least.
No.
My image, I just checked. Last time I was my laptop, because on my laptop I don't have automatic updates enabled, is 36 updates, and last image I pulled was about 2 weeks old.
Okay, different people, different amount of packages.
Yeah, okay, but the rest of us that are just running the regular Fedora, we all had 378 updates.
Well, let
That's
me
great,
tell
Big
you,
Bud. Thank you for correcting us.
I have probably far more complex system and
Probably
far more.
you deviated. You see, I'm just running just normal Fedora. Right?
This thing is insane. I should probably clean up the image. And
yeah, but the Fedora releases looked good. Obviously, we had the Ubuntu releases too.
Yeah, I was surprised that Kubuntu didn't ship with Plasma 6.
No, it's a LTS. They would never have moved that quickly. You can get it with backports, I'm sure, but because they're LTS releases that are going to be supported for several years, they slow things down a little bit.
From what I know, Kubuntu will be on Plasma 5 at least for 2404 for the whole time.
Yeah, but manually
2410.
you could go get Plasma 6.
I'm not sure. I don't think it will be in backports.
You don't think?
No.
I bet somebody works that out at some point.
I know if they have anything similar of a system we used for Mate, they won't be in backports.
The GNOME 46 looks great. Right.
GNOME 46. Well, okay. Here's the thing with GNOME 46. GNOME 46.1, they beat Plasma to the explicit sync thing. Plasma will ship explicit sync for Nvidia users in Plasma 6.1, which is in June, whereas GNOME already beat them to the punch with GNOME 46.1.
Yeah.
Doesn't GNOME also contain some far more important fixes than the explicit sync thing, like the triple
far
buffering
more important things
there?
But like it's not important for Nvidia users to get their Nvidia card running correctly on Wayland.
Well,
that's a Wayland. Is that a GNOME problem? Like, is GNOME responsible for Nvidia not working right on Wayland?
No.
Well, they're not. They're not directly responsible, but
I understand they all work for Red Hat. I mean, most of Red Hat is behind GNOME and Wayland, but still you have two separate projects. Not everybody working on Wayland's working on GNOME and vice versa.
Yeah.
But
and one thing to consider is that
triple buffering far more important than explicit sync, in my opinion.
Okay.
What was that, Stefan?
Well, I was just saying one thing to consider is that GNOME is actually taking care of accessibility. Like they're the only ones. also tested the release and I tested the accessibility settings because I was thinking for a proper distro for some elderly people with proper zooming and stuff.
Yeah, the
And
zoom. Yeah, yes.
probably,
and that's one of the things that literally, we got so many desktop environments on Linux, but only GNOME really tries to cater to people with accessibility needs. I mean, I guess Plasma does too, but they do a bad job with it.
Yeah. Plasma, the accessibility settings on Plasma are.
But most other desktop environments don't even try. Like they just don't have the resources. Like you got to pick and choose your battles.
Yeah.
That's kind of unfortunate, but I guess for my father with like bad eyesight, it probably is a viable solution.
Yeah, even for my dad too. He's got bad eyesight, and I would select GNOME for that.
And GNOME is a better desktop anyway, so...
Well, we could debate that, and I could take either one of them, but one thing I did like from the new Ubuntu releases, and it's been around in the interim release, the 23.10 before, but that new Flutter-based installer, I do like. I wish Dark Zero would figure out how to write a Flutter-based installer for Arch Linux and then share it with the community.
One of them days.
Just seems like good technology. I don't know.
In fact,
aren't they doing the Flutter? It wasn't that they did another custom app in Flutter. Was it the App Center? Or are they doing that in Flutter? There was something else on the Ubuntu ISO that was also a Flutter app.
Isn't Flutter just GTK with custom bindings for GTK?
It is. I don't think. Does it use GTK at all?
I believe it in the backend uses GTK.
It's a superset of
I have briefly looked at. I went to the Flutter website a few months ago with 23.10, and because of the installer, I was like, "What is Flutter, and how can I make my first Flutter app?" And it looked like something I didn't want to touch. It does use GTK.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that means you can get the exact same effect with a worse language to write with GTK.
Like Bash.
No.
Well,
no, don't use
problem
Bash.
is that it's worse. Problem is that any version of GTK that you can use is gonna have worse UX experience with any language compared to Flutter.
Well, everything should be a web app now.
No. No, not everything. But
using Electron.
JavaScript everything, Big Pod. JavaScript everything.
No. There are better things in JavaScript for web apps, like WebAssembly, which you can
it's not gonna be there. It's not gonna be there. Stop trying to make it happen.
Well,
it's not.
He's trying to make that dream live, huh?
Yeah, it's not gonna be there. We're gonna have to figure out the JS.
Yeah, like if you'd have said Python, I might have went with you, but WebAssembly, I don't know.
A lot of you don't realize how powerful WebAssembly is, and there are people
it
hate
is powerful
WebAssembly for no reason. But you can
I don't hate it. It's just not gonna be there. It's not gonna be. It's too hard of a target.
Why?
Yeah.
LLVM had it as a target. All need to do is write LLVM bindings. Done. Like Rust has and C# has them.
Yeah, Rust and C#.
I don't know. As a Haskell
Go
fan,
is many other languages.
As a Haskell fan, is Elm still a thing? Do people still use Elm to write web apps? I used to hear about that years ago. It seems like that one fell out of favor.
For anything useful.
Yeah, these programming languages come and go. Like it's kind of like WebAssembly. It was hot for about 2 weeks, and then everybody decided it wasn't all that.
I thought WhatsApp was on Elm.
Is it?
Yeah, WhatsApp is using an Elixir backend.
I'm writing Electron-type apps in Python now, started recently. I'm using a package called Streamlit, and it's excellent, actually.
WhatsApp, is that open source? Can I look at the code?
Streamlit, yes, it's in PyPy.
WhatsApp isn't open source.
Pip installs Streamlit in the terminal, and then when you go, you in the terminal you say Streamlit run, and then there's a Python app, .py, and you have commands in there, st.write, writes to the screen, st text area input box. It does everything in there. I've got one I'm looking at right now, my first app in it. It has a text input box, and below it is a whole bunch of links for search engines. So I put one in there, and I can click on Google. I can click on IMDb or Wikipedia or YouTube, and it'll bring up that link in the window next to the current one. And then I can look at that, close it, and come back and at this box, and I can select another link. So I've got about 40 links in there. I do all my image searches there. And
just from listening to this, I realize it has exactly the same horrible user experience as GTK has.
What does? Streamlit?
Streamlit thing. Yeah, it has the same horrible developer experience as GTK. Because as soon as you have to write in code,
What UI toolkit has a better experience than GTK?
Flutter, for one.
Okay.
Well, you were just talking trash about Flutter a minute ago, but now it's better.
I wasn't talking trash, saying that I don't like it. Doesn't mean it doesn't have good developer experience. Another one has good developer experience, anything made by Microsoft, because it uses like custom language for defining. And at the end of the day, HTML.
Well, this generates HTML code under the hood.
Great, it generates HTML. No, that's not good. Not generating, writing HTML. Write HTML. That's a better user experience for those who write front ends. Far better development experience than writing Python code or some other code.
Well, let me ask you something. Since we're going there with HTML, earlier, I was half joking with the Electron stuff and JavaScript and web apps. If Dark Zero learned a little JavaScript, could he write an installer in Electron?
Yes. Yeah.
Would it be worth doing?
No.
Sure. At the end of the day, if I remember correctly, the new Fedora installer is the Firefox window.
And because it's a web app, he could even connect that thing to his website, for support requests or whatever. That way people can just jump right into the forums and ask questions about his installer.
Well, at the end of the day, again, the new web UI for Anaconda for Fedora will be a Firefox window.
That's good, because I hate
Firefox window.
I hate the Anaconda installer, and it's
fucking awesome.
It is so bad.
It is based on Cockpit. So
okay.
But it's really, really, really good. Much better than the current Anaconda, and I'm so happy.
When it comes out in 10 years.
I believe 41 should be when it gets first out in Fedora.
Yeah, but it'll be 6 months.
I believe
the next release.
we already, at least internally, have them in Ublo. So it's like it's in Fedora 40 repos already, just not tested enough.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, Fedora is supposed to release like every 6 months, but usually they don't release on time, although this release cycle was very weird. I don't know if I remember another release cycle where they released before Ubuntu. Because usually they're supposed to release it about the same time, but Ubuntu will release exactly on time, and then Fedora will release like 2 months later.
And Fedora wasn't on time even.
And it still wasn't on time, but hey, it's the fact that you got it in April.
Thankfully, like these days, I am very much seeing how Fedora works. Like literally, they have meetings at before the date that is officially supposed to release. There's basically a go no go meeting, and if everything isn't working correctly, if everybody doesn't agree on the committee that is leading the release.
Well, they shouldn't put that to a vote. They should have one person in charge that just makes the decision and go with it.
There is like a group that's specifically just for this. They have like groups that specifically for this, group that specifically for this, and so on. And it has been very, very good for them to do that. So,
well, the question I have is, as when was the last time Fedora actually released on time?
They released on time recently because I was shocked because like I even mentioned it on my video of it. I was like, I can't ever remember a time where it came
Might have
out.
been
Like
38 or 39.
there was, I think it was either 38 or 39. It might have been 37, but it was something within the last 2 or 3 years.
Wait,
It was 38 because I remember 39. We were like looking at will it release or not, and it didn't release on time.
Because it was weird because, I mean, it had been probably at least 10 or 12 years since they had a release on time, and all of a sudden one day it just dropped on time. It's like, no, that doesn't happen. This is a joke, right? It's like, is it April Fools?
This is good. They rather wait than go and release a half-baked product.
Yeah.
Well, wait, DT, you make videos?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Sorry, bad joke.
Like this morning, this morning I wake up to something BigPod posted on Mastodon, and I'm like, okay. He thinks that Windows, from a technical level, is better operating system than Linux.
You know what? That's funny he mentioned that because just this morning I was scouring the internet for some tech-related news, and I came across an article from one of the guys over on ZDNet. It might have been Jack Wallen, because I usually get a lot of his news feeds. And he was writing an article about everything on Mac that he loves and he wished was in Linux. And the very first thing was the audio stack.
Oh.
The second thing,
I agree with
the
that.
video stack. It's like, hey, audio on Linux sucks, video on Linux sucks, Xorg sucks, Wayland's not ready. Can we just get what Mac has? And I was like, you know what? I can't really disagree with any, especially with the audio part. You know, I can't disagree with any of.
I have in the years that I've done things, I mean, Windows is only really maybe 7 years older than Linux, but the billions of dollars that have been poured into both Windows and Mac, it's really hard to compete.
Yeah.
What about
when we start talking about the operating system,
Linux? Yeah, like literally billions upon billions.
You can't really, I mean, as far as the age of the operating systems, yeah, you're right. But you also have to understand some of the lineage from Linux comes from previous operating systems. Also,
that's
nobody really used
let's be clear. That's what
and also nobody really used computers until the World Wide Web became a thing in 1996. Yeah. So you're really talking about just a handful of nerds using those early versions of Windows and those early versions of Linux. And once 1996 rolled around, you know, then we can start talking about, you know, like the masses using computers and.
Well,
you know,
yeah,
people,
I mean, yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, we can talk about like the old Unix days and things like that, but there's like 5 neckbeards out in the world that ran those things that are still around, right?
I would be willing to put up a secretary from 1980 working on a terminal against some of the younger kids today on being able to be a power user in computers, because you had to know so much more back then than you do now.
If you ever had to edit something with Ed, yes, you are on a whole different level than everybody else using that newfangled editor Vim, right?
Right.
Oh.
And look
the
at
reason
me,
I put that tweet out or that tweet out is actually the Dark Zero's interview on Brody's podcast.
Yeah, I watched that last night.
I remembered what kind of permission system Windows uses and what kind of garbage Linux uses. Sorry, but if there is one thing on Linux I hate, it's the permission system.
Yep.
And yes, ACLs are on Linux, but they are so hidden and so behind the time that it's really not useful feature.
Oh,
Windows is ACL native.
Yeah, that was that. I don't know. Brody didn't realize it, or it didn't sink in correctly. But when I said NTFS being shipped on Arch install, it only took 5 minutes for it to sink in and even go to the extent of testing it in a VM. Well, Brody was correct when he said it's not an issue with NTFS, it's the issue with how Arch install is shipping it and the configuration they're including. That's causing the issue, the unbootable system issue. But why? Now, when I talked to Trox from Arch install, he was like, "We hid it behind advanced for a reason." I was like, "Can you please take it out? Because some people are going to try it and see it and try it and then complain to you. Do you want the headache?"
Yeah.
He just closed my issue. He closed my issue without replying, and
the Arch install script, like those desktop profiles that they have,
they're shit.
They are so bad. I actually looked at the code. I dove in the code a little bit to look at what they were doing for each profile you choose with which login manager, and the software choices are so different from one window manager to the next, and it doesn't make sense. Why are you not installing the exact same terminal for each? Like, one will be using one terminal, one will be using a different terminal. It's like, this is confusing. Why are you doing it that way?
The worst part of it is for Hyperland, they don't ship the X-Wayland protocol, the X-Wayland portal. I'm like, what?
It was really funny to watch his face. I mean, it looked like the energy just got sucked out of Brody.
Yeah,
it was hilarious.
Especially that he knows Hyperland very well, and he knows what is required for Hyperland to function correctly. He was like, "What the hell? Why do they exist? They don't even do anything, any of the stuff right."
Well, I think they exist because they wanted to do it right. They
just don't.
But whoever wrote the script is not right. Whoever wrote the script has never used any of those window managers that are an option, because none of them make sense. Not a single one of them makes sense as far as the software that he's bundling with them.
That's what prompted me into creating my own Plasma profile, basically, that people can run in Arch root. It prompted me to do that because I'm like, ship Plasma with just console and Dolphin, that's it?
No. Some window managers ship with Alacrity, some ship with Kitty, some ship with dmenu as your run launcher, some ship with Rofi. It's like, what? You can't just standardize on some of these, so it's just weird.
Oh no, you can't.
Because here comes my basic complaint: why the hell are we still insisting on packaging everything in distro?
Yeah.
Well, he's trying to be new user friendly, but here's the thing: if you don't give new users the right set of packages, they are going to be in a world of hurt, right? That's the whole thing with the Arch install.
The problem is that this is built in distro, not built by the project.
No, but here's but here's the thing: they're shipping on Arch on the Arch ISO. So to an ignorant user who doesn't know any better, they're gonna think that was created by Arch when it's official. Is completely the opposite.
Right. It's sanctioned by the Arch devs is what they're gonna think.
Well, you could definitely make an argument about that. The fact that it appears on there means that you sanctioned it.
Yeah. It's just a contribution upstream to Arch, and I don't know why. And here's an interview I saw of with the guy from Arch GUI, which got the cease and desist from Arch because he used Arch in the name.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah,
he should have known that when he named it that.
Yeah, right. The interview in the interview when he suggested to work with Arch on a GUI package installer, not like Calamares, but an Arch specific GUI installer doing it the Arch way. They refused it using the excuse we don't want to exceed the 700 megabytes ISO size limit for a CD-ROM. Now they are 900 megabytes, so they exceeded that by miles.
Well, that's different because the kernel gets bigger, system D gets bigger. You can't talk a few years from now to now. You can't make something 600 megs anymore.
So they still won't allow a GUI installer. I don't know what the reasoning is now because they crossed the 700 megabyte threshold.
The reason is they know they screwed up. If they would just have had a simple ncurses installer like Debian has had since the beginning of time, Arch would have been much more. Arch is popular, but it would have been much more popular than it is now.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. The ncurses.
And it's not like the ncurses libraries are
shouldn't be
big. I mean,
popular.
that's not something that takes up space on the ISO.
Yeah. Do you remember an installer called ArchPy?
Yeah. Mhm.
Something like that.
Art shouldn't be popular.
Arch shouldn't be popular. Okay, Big Pod.
Pac-Man
go
is
back
a
to
horrible
Windows.
package
Go back to
manager, and
Windows.
Arch shouldn't be popular.
Yes, Pac-Man is a horrible package manager. It is.
You know what? You're starting to sway me on that a little bit because, you know, the more I have issues with Pac-Man, like this libcurl issue that is currently an issue, I don't know if that's necessarily Pac-Man's fault or the curl dev's fault, but I'm going to blame Pac-Man just because Big Pod's been putting it in my head that it's always Pac-Man's problem.
Well, it was Pac-Man's problem when Pac-Man 6.1 got released. It took them 48 hours to fix everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree with Big Pot to a certain degree. I am a as someone put it on Brody's video in the comments. I am a very humble person, and I like to take the safer route and say that it can be bad. A lot of distros ship a package manager that has more issues than others. But there is no such thing as a perfect package manager.
The other day when I did my Ubuntu video, I had people in the comments. I think I had one or two in the comments say they wouldn't use Ubuntu because of apt. That's like the apt package manager. What's wrong with? Like, what the hell's wrong with apt? I don't. People will find something wrong with any package manager.
Well, there's a few issues with Ubuntu. Like I can't install Firefox not using a snap when I need a version without a snap. Or for instance, I was working on a streaming server installing OBS and I needed an advanced WebSocket feature that was not included in the snap. What are you gonna do?
You can install the Flatpak if it's there in the Flatpak. If they have a deb, you could always sideload a deb. I mean, Mozilla puts out a deb for Firefox.
I had to sideload the debs, but like, is it a great idea to sideload debs on Ubuntu with apt, or have I fell on my nose in the past doing that?
The fact that anything and snap is separate, but the fact that anything has to be installed via system level package manager.
But if you have to go to the command line and do anything, right? That's just it's broken.
Not going to command line, just having to install using a system level package manager. That's a problem in its entire form for Linux, and that's one of the reasons why Linux has issues, so many issues that needs to be solved sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Sprinkled Knights in the chat.
Solved.
Yeah, in the chat, Sprinkled Knights, he's saying he doesn't like apt because it's slow and it installs recommended packages.
That's a default.
I don't know if it's slow.
And it is changed regularly by different versions.
Yeah.
So it's really one configuration of the switch, because for desktop users, it's actually pretty good to install recommended packages.
Yeah, Rational Being says DNF is very slow in my region. DNF is slow here in the US. I can tell you that too.
DNF4 is
noticeably slower
for everyone.
Yeah.
DNF
people that complain about the
has
speed of
some
apt or
issues.
Pac-Man, until you use DNF, don't complain.
Everybody, if you want to have a fast DNF, go and run sudo DNF install DNF5 and then symlink DNF5 to DNF. You're gonna have a really fast DNF. DNF5 is light years ahead of DNF4.
Why don't they ship it by default? Why didn't they ship it by default on Fedora 40 though?
Testing, not yet.
Still testing, yeah.
That's the thing. It's like a lot of testing.
Yeah.
Matt over at OpenSUSE was complaining about Zipper, was how long it was taking to install things. He said it took 35 minutes. It's dog slow. And he changed to DNF, and he did it in 5 minutes on it. So I don't
Zipper
know
is also really slow.
Yeah, Zipper's not the greatest.
But he He's so keen on OpenSUSE. He waxes enthusiastic. I'll never change it. I'll never go back to anything. And then he says, well, a zipper is so darn slow. And then he says, I love Qtile. I'll never use anything but Qtile. But every once in a while, OpenSUSE breaks Python, and I can't use Qtile at the moment. So I think he's got...
the problem with Qtile is the Python libraries. All it takes is one of them to get out of sync. And, you know, which isn't a hard fix. You just go and update the system if you need to update all the packages, which is usually the solution. Or sometimes you just need to find the one package that's a problem. I know with Qtile, you have Qtile, and then you have the Qtile extras library. And if the Qtile extras library, if you're importing that into your config to get certain widgets or things, if that's not in sync with the proper Qtile package, it'll crash. So
I played around with Qtile for the first time recently. I'm a big KDE desktop, but I figured I'd have a go at it just to see what it's like. I had a positive experience. It was really quite good. It's the nice thing about it is your config file, if it crashes, it defaults to the original config file. So
it just falls back to,
so you can fix your config and come right back to it without it. So it leads to incremental development.
Most tiling window managers they'll have a fallback, usually somewhere in /etc. So if you break your config for whatever window manager you're trying, it should fall back to a default config just so you can log in. At least the good ones do. Now, occasionally you'll find some newfangled window manager somebody just created last week, and
speaking of fallback, can you believe that the Arch shill, I don't use the kernel anymore that ships with Arch. The first thing I do is uninstall the Arch kernel and install the LTS one and stick with the LTS.
Yeah, I go back and forth. Sometimes I'll stick to LTS kernel. Sometimes I'll just go with the latest.
I just don't bother with the other kernel because by using Arch for 5 years, I've learned that the kernel can be...
Yes.
It takes out... The kernel takes out the power.
I'll tell you why you might want to stick to the LTS kernel if you want. It's because, if an Arch update is going to break, the one that's going to cause you the most pain is the one where the power goes out during a kernel update, like just happened. And if you're not getting as many kernel updates, that's a good thing. Otherwise, you're going to get a new kernel practically every day on Arch. And, that's just more of a chance of something going bad with that.
Random question. What's the latest version of the kernel on Arch?
I updated yesterday. Now, they may have something different out today, but 6.8.4.
No, 6.8.7.
Okay.
That's Arch 2. Arch 2.
Yeah, that's Arch specific.
He's on some kind of release candidate. What were you on?
No, I'm not on a release candidate. It's the latest one on Arch.
I was pretty sure I updated. I might not have updated this machine yesterday. Maybe I imagined that.
It's 6.8.7. I'm on arch.org. It's 6.8.7-arch 2.
Okay.
Okay.
That -arch2 means nothing. That's just a label.
It's a bug fix. It's a bug fix for 6.8.7.
That is a patch label, so you can do updates easily without.
I've been corrected in the chat. GK Sudo is actually on the release candidate. He's using 6.9.0-RC5.
Yeah.
6.9.
I tested 6.9 for 15 minutes. I immediately removed it because I use VMware. I use a license that was given to me ages ago, but the DKMS does not compile against 6.9. So because I run Windows 2000, and Windows 2000 flies on VMware, it's slow AF on QEMU. So yeah. So I stick to the LTS kernel and I'm good, especially that I use Nvidia. Less Nvidia issues with the LTS kernel.
One thing I wanted to mention, and give me a couple minutes here, guys, because I thought this was an interesting story, and it's about the Linux kernel, so I'm glad we have this segue here. I was reading the other day a story about the Linux kernel mailing list. This happened a few weeks ago. They decided they were going to remove ReiserFS, the file system, from the Linux kernel. Yep. And one of the guys that's associated with the kernel mailing list wanted to reach out to Hans Reiser, the creator of that file system, to see what his thoughts on that. Of course, Hans Reiser has been in prison since 2006 for murdering his wife. He's facing a life sentence, doing time somewhere in a prison in California. So he wrote him in prison to see what his response to this. And he wrote back a 6,500 word response. And I thought it was really interesting for somebody that's been sitting in jail for 18 years. You know, it was actually a very good read because he was reflecting on his life. He apologized to the Linux kernel mailing list right up front. And like his first thing was he apologized for his crime. He shouldn't have done what he did. He regrets that ReiserFS didn't become popular for a variety of reasons, but obviously for the main one because of his crime. You know, that he screwed that up. He regrets losing contact with all the friends, his developer friends over the years that he had worked with at that point, because he hasn't had any contact with any of them. He doesn't know if any of them are still alive, or, you know, but he basically, you know, he has a lot of regrets. He also, you know, talked about he should have learned how to talk through his problems in life. As far as, you know, before he got married and before he started becoming a developer and working on projects, working with projects like the Linux kernel, he should have learned how to, I guess, deal with a lot of stress and things in his life in a better way than obviously how he dealt with how he ended up, you know, sitting in prison. Anyway, it was a very interesting read. It's a huge letter, and I found it fascinating. He also thanked specific people. Like at one point, he thanked Richard Stallman for all he had did with free software and being an inspiration to him. He thanked everybody on the Linux kernel mailing list, and he hopes everybody is doing well. Anyway, it was just. I thought it was fascinating because I can't remember a time somebody that's been sitting in prison was asked their thoughts on what's going on with a piece of free and open source software. Of course, it was about a project he created, but
he's still in prison. He was denied parole in 2022. His next parole hearing's in 2027.
Yeah, I mean, for somebody that's facing life in prison for murder, they're usually not going to let you out after just 18 years. Yeah. So, I mean, he's going to have to do probably 25 or 30 years before they'd ever consider. Yeah,
he has parole hearings every 5 years.
When he's 70 years old, he's like 59 now. When he's 70, they might let him out, you know, so he can go somewhere and die with his family. It sounds
like his therapist sessions really did do their job.
Yeah. Well, he said he learned a lot in prison. Yeah, like I said, it was a fascinating read. I'm surprised he wrote back with such a very detailed and, you know, thoughtful response to the kernel.
Okay, but you didn't ask the question. What did he think about the kernel removing it? Did he answer that question?
Oh, he might have, but he probably went into some technical detail. He probably doesn't care at this point because he can't maintain it.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing he can do about it.
To either.
No, his reply. I read it too, and his reply regarding this situation was, if they feel like they need to remove it, I don't have any say in this.
He did at one point realize that his actions are the cause of why ReiserFS failed and why now it needs to be removed. Like he understands.
He understands, and
his
he's
crime
okay if
is the reason all of this is happening, and he's okay with it.
Yeah, it's basically the gist of it is it would be sad if they removed it, but it's fine. It's not going to be the end of the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, is it even safe to use if they were to continue developing it? I mean, when was the last time it was maintained?
Well, he wasn't the only one that was working on it, obviously. Like a file system, it's not a small project. He had other people helping him. But after what happened with him, like nobody really wanted to touch it at that point just because of the name associated with it.
Right.
Because he named it after himself, right? I mean, it's ReiserFS. Yeah, nobody wants to touch that at that point. It's like,
It's not the only file system that is being removed. There is another one that they're considering removing. I forgot the name of it, but it's because it's not being adopted widely enough. So
ReiserFS?
Yeah, right. I don't know. I don't know if it's. I forgot which one it was. I completely forgot. But Brody talked about it, I think, or somebody else. I saw a video. But still, not everything. Everything. I mean, everything. As like I said on the interview with Brody, everything has a shelf life.
Yeah.
Nothing is eternal. So we should
but that's everything. Yeah.
So
everything in life, right, has a shelf life.
Well,
just
specifically in open source, there's a lot of projects that supersede older projects, and they do what the older projects do, but better and with additional stuff. So the older things are gonna be put on the shelf. But the nice thing, on the other hand, about open source is if you still want to use the old stuff, it's always there for you to maintain yourself. This is the benefit versus the proprietary software.
Well, yeah, that's the main benefit, is that if I have a piece of proprietary software that all of a sudden the company goes bankrupt and they go away, I can't do anything with that proprietary software at that point. It's just
gone.
It's useless. I can't look at the source code because it's still licensed under a proprietary license.
Yep.
And the proprietor has already gone away. He doesn't even exist anymore, that company. So that's the thing with open source software. At least the code will always be open. I will always have at least the opportunity to do something with it.
Which transitions us perfectly.
In reality, most projects that lose maintainer, and that's it, and they die.
Yeah, well, obviously. But the thing is, at least you have the opportunity to do something if you could.
Yeah.
Only
with proprietary software,
really,
you don't have that.
Popular projects get fork, and
but
look at what happened. Like, there is many projects that get, like, I want to just quickly say corporatized, go proprietary or go non-open source. How many of them get?
Labs?
About to say, that's a good one.
An open source
Redis.
project, and
Redis
Redis being the latest example of that. Before that being Terraform, but in between that there was like, I believe, like 5 projects that went that way as well, that nobody talked about because they weren't at all popular.
Well, if they don't matter, nobody cares.
Wider crowd.
Yeah,
now, that's the thing. If a piece of software wants to go proprietary that was open source, but nobody in the open source community was really using it anyway, for whatever reasons, then it was people probably could already see the writing on the wall with that piece of software. It was probably doing some other things.
At least for one of those that I just remember off the top of my head, were used, but not all that frequently because it was like a specific thing. So it wasn't that it was like people thinking it will get removed or it will get, but because it was purpose built, as Steve said.
Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Linux View in the chat, he says, thank you for your content, taking a deeper dive into Linux and Linux gaming with Steam these days. Yeah, I think you're going to find Steam on Linux to be quite good. I know a lot of people, especially Windows fanboys, still love to make fun of the gaming experience on Linux. But it's not bad. It really isn't.
But
the catch. It isn't bad, but it isn't good either.
Yeah,
right.
But
exactly.
Come on. Bazite Deck Edition is not bad.
Okay.
Bazite is great, but like in general, Linux experience is just I still went back to Windows.
It still needs time. But basically, what I wanted to say is the current subject transitions us to the fact that one of the head Nouveau maintainers moved to Nvidia, but he's still pushing patches upstream to Nouveau using his now work ID through Nvidia, and that is up for interpretation.
Did he push
People can
anything
interpret it
else
however they want.
The one big patch set?
156 patches, yeah.
Yeah, but is that the only set of patches he pushed? Has he pushed anything since?
He apparently yes, he will be pushing more because according to what Brody showed on his video, the discussion is now back up, and they're still discussing more patches coming through his work email. How could that be interpreted? Could that be interpreted that Nvidia is now contributing through him
No.
Nouveau,
Problem
or is it just him doing it on the side, or is he allowed to?
We do
Well,
not
if he's
know
using a
whether
working
most of those
now.
patches are actually, maybe those patches existed before in course form, and he's allowed to finish them before he's not allowed to do anything else.
And it could be NVIDIA just wants him to use his work email, but that doesn't necessarily mean NVIDIA.
Also that, even though.
That's why I said it's up for interpretation.
policy.
We can interpret it any which way, but until he clarifies things, we won't know.
And
No, but it's fun to guess.
Yeah, one of the things with
I
NVIDIA,
guess that it's likely that he can do what he was working on and then end things.
right.
That's be
I mean,
guess.
obviously they hired him to keep doing what. I mean, that's the reason they brought him on. They want him to work on Nouveau.
Not necessarily. He clearly is a good kernel developer with a kernel driver developer with experience.
I think NVIDIA. I think NVIDIA knows they probably are going to have to eventually open source some things.
Why?
Because the competitors, and not just in the graphics chip space, and not just with AMD and Intel, just software in general. I think NVIDIA is going to start losing ground to some folks like this whole AI race, where NVIDIA has been a big winner with AI here recently, but then you got big companies like Meta. Zuckerberg is pretty smart. Like he's thinking about the open source model of AI, and
yes, but all of them still use NVIDIA hardware with proprietary drivers.
Yeah,
that's the catch. NVIDIA doesn't sell you a model. NVIDIA sells you hardware to train that model on, and currently, unless you are actually hard.
Well, I think having an open source model for AI is going to, like NVIDIA, Microsoft with OpenAI, they're going to lose ground to any kind of open source competitors. They just are.
Why?
You know that.
Why?
Because developers are going to jump on the open. You know that, Big Pod. You know
that model has to be trained somewhere. NVIDIA wins no matter what. That model has to be trained somewhere.
You said NVIDIA wins no matter what?
Yes. They are the prime hardware vendor for hardware that on which models are trained. They're the prime hardware vendor. They don't have to do anything, and they will win. They have to release new hardware.
They're the prime hardware vendor now. That doesn't mean that all these other chip manufacturers, they can't compete if NVIDIA drops the ball.
Okay, let me explain how a potential competitor can win. The only way a potential competitor can win if they can entrench themselves into the hardware sector, which means they have to create as good of an API as CUDA, which we know that AMD can do, because even though ROCm is pretty good, it's still So first they have to do that. Then they have to get a significant market share for it to actually matter. And I'm not talking about significant market share in desktops and laptops, because that's irrelevant. Significant market share in data centers where training happens. When those requirements are met, which those requirements are irrelevant to open source, how open source the drivers are.
Yeah, but you're going to start seeing some of these large billion-dollar and trillion-dollar companies start working together on some things, and don't be surprised if some of these companies like Microsoft or Meta, they might start partnering with a company like AMD to compete with NVIDIA.
Yes, if Microsoft writes them the whole processing library, maybe then AMD ain't gonna win that.
Obviously, Microsoft would be the big brother in a partnership with AMD. Microsoft has all the money, right? They have all the developers.
Everything in that relationship.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is that the only way in reality that Nvidia in the next 5 years, and by the time they're going to have such a big war chest that it won't really matter, and such a big entrenchment, it won't really matter anything else.
Man, we'll see.
For them to lose if the specific companies, for their internal use, build their own hardware, which some companies already do. For example, Tesla for their Tesla AI for their cars.
To be fair, Tesla, a lot of people think Tesla is a car company. which
That's
is
software
the
company.
wrong. Tesla is actually a IT company mainly because there's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have their own hardware for training. It's very specialized, but it's very much internal to them because you have to write your own SDK, your own everything for it. You cannot just use CUDA.
Yeah.
And CUDA is leaps and bounds in front of one API from Intel and from ROCm.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that Nvidia will continue to ignore open source for too long.
I don't think they can. I don't think they can ignore it.
Question is, what benefit do they get from open sourcing?
Why did they hire the guy if all he works on is
open source software? I mean, why bring that guy in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's something is happening at Nvidia. We don't know what. We can
still
discuss it for forever.
Can you please answer the question? What benefit does it bring to Nvidia?
I don't disagree with what you're saying, BigPod, but here's the reality of things. They hired a guy who works on open source. So,
yes,
and
that doesn't mean he can always stop working on open source software in regards to this stuff. It's actually completely normal.
Yeah, but as of late, Nvidia has shown that they are willing to put a small amount of effort in open source. That's why they're.
By the way, the Nvidia, we may see open source as drivers, and that's it.
I think Nvidia is just. I think all they're doing is hedging their bets. I think they just want to keep the door open. They're not necessarily going to open source anything, but they want to explore that avenue. Hey, is it feasible if we ever need to do this?
That's what I'm saying.
You bring somebody on, like
that's what I'm saying. They want to explore the avenue. They want to see if there's a lot of interest, whatever. But we might, as BigPod said, we might see them do open source the GPU drivers, and that's it. Because they don't have any interest or any benefits out of anything else, especially when it comes to AI, because the AI is a totally different business. It's a totally different thing. But for their GPU market, end user GPU market, consumer GPU market, they might create a certain open source. They might open source their GPU drivers and call it a day because they cannot put too much effort into that, which also transitions us to a subject I want to talk to you about.
Before that, I still have a note I want to say.
What?
I see Nvidia, if it makes them any sense in theory, because the graphics market, like for computers outside of making graphics cards for AI training models and accelerators, for that is such a small segment currently for them that
that's why they hired only one guy to work on it.
Any kind of much work onto it to open source something, which that open sourcing that driver has so many implications for them. They would have to probably write it from scratch.
Well, if they hired the guy who has already been working on an open source thing, they can use his knowledge and let him only, instead of putting entire teams on the project, they hired him to put him alone on that
one
thing.
Guy isn't enough. This isn't.
Do they care if it's enough or not? They just
they
hired him and put him to work.
Everybody should. Have you ever used the Nouveau driver?
Yeah,
have you ever really used the Nouveau driver?
It's trash.
It's not good.
The only reason it's any good on the latest GPUs is because they put most of the magic of the driver into the GPU.
Hey, go play your favorite Steam on Linux game using the Nouveau driver. Tell me how you like that performance.
Well,
go open up your computer.
Wait. I did try.
No.
What's the name of the game? It's a German name. What's it called? Heimer something. What's the name of the game? I forgot. Anyway, it's a German name. Or Nordic name. I don't know. But where you build your house and you.
I know what you mean. I can't remember either. I'm gonna look.
Yeah. Anyway, I tried this game.
Valhalla.
Yeah.
No, not Valhalla. Not Valhalla. This is Assassin's Creed.
No, the Valhalla, the other Valhalla. There are two.
No, there's another one. But anyway, I played that game on Nouveau Driver, and I was getting around.
Valheim, yeah. The
What?
other one.
Valheim, that's the one. I ran
that
Valheim
was from Stefan, not from me, by the way.
I ran it on Nouveau Driver. I was getting 80 FPS on my 1080.
When?
3 months ago, 4
So
months ago.
NVK. So after NVK.
I don't know, but I was using the Nouveau Driver.
Yes. After NVK came out.
Yeah.
There is a major difference between NVK and what was before NVK.
Yeah, I'm talking about. Yeah,
I
was testing it. I was testing it because they released a major upgrade, and they were pushing it. Look where it was, and look where it become.
Hey, look, nobody's saying that the Nouveau's not a good project. I love the fact that I can boot a computer using the open source driver when I don't have a proprietary driver already installed. I like that. But as soon as you boot into your computer, you're going to install the Nvidia driver, the proprietary driver. You just are.
Yeah, I mean, that is the norm.
And if you don't, your distribution defaults to it. Ubuntu, heck, it just does it, right? We know you want it. We're not even gonna.
Even Bazite, I think, one of the versions of Bazite has them already baked in. But anyway. I wanted to transition to something that I think you would consider very important to talk about.
All right, see you, Jean-Michel. He's got to jump off.
See you, Jean-Michel. And before I do, I need to, if I may, plug the NTA podcast, because we talked about a lot of...
No tax allowed.
No tax allowed.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like I was done wrong. Like it's false advertising, because I see this podcast come up in my feed. No tucks allowed. I subscribe. I listen to like the first 3 episodes, and it is nothing but Linux talk. But it's called
That's
No
why
Tucks Allowed.
That's why I put in the intro. It's a misnomer.
It's brilliant.
It's brilliant, right?
So,
it's a fake out.
So
it's a fake out. Exactly.
What I said is the byline. We bridge the gap between a tech podcast and a Linux podcast.
Yep.
I thought for sure I was going to get like some, philosophical opinions from you guys, or the latest, what TV shows you're watching, just life advice. And then the next thing you know, it's all Linux all the time. I was like,
not all the time. We had an episode where we talked nothing but life stuff and what we do offline and stuff. But yeah,
I would even, if there'd been some gaming talk, I would have been happy.
There is gaming talk.
I need some retro gaming from Dark Zero.
Episode 2 was gaming talk, wasn't it?
Episode 4 was the retro gaming talk by Dark Zero.
I'll check that one out.
Yeah, episode 4 was gaming. I talked gaming because I was and still am playing classic. I'm not going to call them retro because they're not old enough to be retro, but games from the early 2000s. On a Windows XP machine that I have downstairs in the store that I put
games from the 80s and 90s.
Stop talking.
But anyway, I just wanted to plug the podcast. It's a very interesting podcast. We have fun, especially with PicPod being as awesome as he is, as weird as he is as well.
I was going to have you put a link, but I've got it.
But the subject I wanted to talk about is.
Link in the YouTube description or the YouTube chat.
Please watch. Today should be a new episode.
Guys, go subscribe to No Tucks Allowed, the podcast that's all about tucks, even though he's not allowed.
It's not all about tucks. It's about technology. It's bridging the gap between a Linux podcast and tech podcast. Because, in my opinion, tech podcasts do way too little about Linux, and Linux podcasts do way too little about tech.
I wanted some Star Trek talk. I mean,
you're gonna get some Star Trek talk.
At one
next
point, you're
episode,
gonna get
not this one. The next one, next week is going to be all about Star Trek.
Don't worry. At one point, you're gonna get all about rocketry. So
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
I'll tune into that one.
But anyway, the subject I wanted to talk about that is very interesting is, since we talked about AI, I read somewhere that Fedora is trying to build a version that is all about AI.
And at this point, I have to peace out.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. Did you notice when you logged into the latest Zoom that it asked you about, did you want AI's help to prepare you for this meeting?
Yeah.
I could have got AI to give me show notes. I could have asked it for topic choices if I wanted to in this version of Zoom.
That Streamlit app I was telling you about, they have an AI chatbot just for Streamlit, and it works really well. You can ask it and it'll generate code for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's
yesterday
here,
I discovered there was an AI to help you answer job interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And then
this is the world we live in now. Yeah, just get used to it.
Use chatbots.
But is it a good idea to build a whole distro around AI?
Use chatbots to create your resume, and then they use chatbots to analyze it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they just want to test some things. I mean, why not?
Usage of AI in job interviews is as old as technology.
I mean, at the end of the day, you make whatever distribution you want to make. I mean, you make it. I mean, if somebody wants to fill it with AI,
is it a good idea? I'm not saying they're not free to do it. Is it a good idea
for who? For the developers or for
the user?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't use it, so it's hard for me to say. Like, I don't use AI for anything. Like, I don't.
Well, I use it all the time and more and more.
Yeah, Murray might be a better person to ask. Yeah.
Well, for me, it's better. Like we mentioned on the NTA podcast, it's a better idea if they shipped it as a tool, as an optional tool, opt-in tool, rather than build a whole distribution around it and force it in your face.
Mm-hmm.
So, because there is a distro that currently exists. I forgot the name of it, and good thing I forgot because I don't want to mention it anyway. There is a distro that is out there that doesn't function if AI is down. If the AI that it's built around is down, the distro is useless.
So it's a Windows training OS.
No.
This is what it will be like when they decide that you're not worthy to be able to use it anymore.
I mean, that's essentially you're getting Cortana in Linux now. It's basically all it is, right?
Yeah. Actually, yeah. That's the way the guy integrated.
And some people want that. Like, you're asking, is it a good thing? It wouldn't be a good thing for me because I wouldn't use it. But you would be surprised how many people actually miss Windows because Windows has things like.
Well, this is not what I meant. You misunderstood what I meant. What I meant was, okay, it's a tool. Yeah, users, if for the right type of user, it can be useful. But what I meant was, because AI currently is not. It's like Wayland. It's kind of in its infancy. Currently, AI tends to go down more often than not. So if you build a distro.
But just like Wayland, you have to test it and you have to be willing to push the boundaries, like Fedora pushing it, even though a lot of people are going to have problems. Same thing with something like this. You're going to push it just to work out some bugs. That's all it is.
Yeah, but with it, if you build a distro completely relying on it so badly as a core part of the distro, if that AI, because it's not ready, goes down, it will pull the distro with it. So do you want the distro to go down because the AI model went down because of issues or because of downtime, because they needed to repair
I
a few
don't know.
things?
It's hard for me to care about like beta quality software, like it's designed to break.
But that's what I mean. It's in beta quality. It shouldn't. Right. No distro should be built around it.
The user chooses to use it. It's like I use plenty of beta software, and if it breaks, I can't complain about it. I chose to use the damn thing. Like, I'm not going to complain to the developers for, that's like, hey, I knew what I was getting into going in, so.
Yeah, well, we can say the same thing about the wrong kind of crowd jumping on Arch or on Gentoo or whatever.
Yeah, Arch is a little different.
Well, somebody
Arch and Gentoo.
somebody
You can't
said-
put Arch and Gentoo in the
In one
beta
box.
software kind. I mean, I
can't.
know, yeah, they're not. That's not beta quality software.
Gen 2 is stable, actually. Gen 2 can be made rock solid.
And if you
stable.
never update, it's never gonna like it's different. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody told me once that Arch will always attract the wrong kind of crowd because of the thing they mentioned on their website. It's a noob friendly, whatever. They have it on their website. It's the wrong thing. That's why it's going to attract the wrong kind of crowd. But AI is kind of weird right now. But as you said, it's a choice. It's a user choice. Users who choose
You can't
AI.
really complain. You can't complain about anything that you choose to use. That's my problem with the people that complain about systemd. Nobody's making you use systemd. Nobody's making you use a distro that uses systemd. You don't want to use systemd, go install something else. Or snaps or flatpaks or whatever it is that people complain about these days. Nobody's forcing you to use any of that damn stuff. Just go install whatever other distributions out there that doesn't have all that stuff. Go install Gentoo, like Stefan said, and you'll get OpenRC, right? You won't get snaps or flatpaks unless you install them. And hey, but then they complain, well, that's not what I want. I want the distribution that ships all that stuff to stop using it. Well, that's idiotic. That makes no sense.
That's why we
the
got
Arch
choice.
community these days is full of nonsensical people who make absolutely no sense. They just like to complain just for the sake of complaining, but it's part of what we signed up for. We see
Steve,
those people.
Let's jump off the AI train of thought here because we've been going on that for a while. I did want a much different kind of conversation today as far as our main topic.
Now I can talk.
Because I do like here in the last couple of these, I've been trying to, talk about some of the applications on Linux. We've had some good discussions in the past on that. And today I wanted to talk about a particular group of applications, mainly multimedia players. I want to talk about audio players and video players. Especially audio players, because I know we're going to get a wide variety of discussion on this, depending on how you get your audio, whether it's a local library or whether you stream it from maybe a server or whatever you're doing. But video, let's start with video, because I imagine this will be the easy topic. Video players on Linux. Does everybody just use probably either MPV or VLC? Is anybody using something that's not one of those two?
I've used Parole now and then.
I'm sorry, what was that, Murray?
I've used Parole now and then.
Parole with the GNOME?
Yeah, but I'm using it on KDE and it works.
Oh, you're using it on KDE? Okay. What are you using it on, Steve? Steve is on KDE, so are you doing the Dragon player or whatever the hell? Is that the what is the video player on KDE?
That's gonna send your head spinning. MPC.
Vida.
For video. Let's start with video.
Yeah,
we'll get
MPC.
to MPC is not isn't that the command line audio player?
No. MPC is Media Player Classic for Windows.
That thing.
Oh, he's not even on Linux. Come on.
No. I'm using a Windows application on Linux using Wine. I like MPC. I'm used to MPC because it's
You're making Stefan's head hurt. You can tell he's got a headache right now.
Doesn't the thing look exactly like
I just told you it's gonna send your head
VLC?
spinning.
If I remember correctly, it looks like an old VNC and that's it.
Well, you can say that because the project as a whole has been discontinued, but I still use it. It's a portable version that I use through Wine. I like it. I'm used to it. I use it.
Hey
not
everyone,
for
my name is Emily, and we're going to do a hit for big.
Sorry about that. I was just testing my video player.
Right.
It's called MPC. I like it. It's not for every single video. I cannot set it as my default video player. My default video
Let me
player
ask
is
you
MPV.
this: what is wrong with the video players that we have on Linux? Is
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing. I'm not using it as a.
You're
because
not
I don't
using it
like
as a protest
anyone...
of anything on Linux. You're just using it to use it.
No. You want to know why I use it?
Yes.
It's because I have a USB thumb drive. that was dedicated to portable apps on Windows. I plugged it in the other day by mistake because I thought I was plugging in the Ventoy drive, and I see all the portable apps, and I start launching all the apps one by one just to see if they run via Wine. And MPC was one of them, and I tried it. It works, so it's now in my documents portable apps, and I use it from time to time.
All right. Anybody else have anything to share on video players? I thought this would be quick and straightforward, but Steve ruined it.
Mostly watch videos in browser these days. I don't even have VLC or MPV or anything installed.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting too. Yeah, video is pretty straightforward.
It's MPV basically.
Yeah, well, let's get to the audio players because honestly, that's going to be a much more varied answer, I would imagine. Anybody want to discuss their preferred audio player on Linux?
Very simple audio player, Strawberry.
Strawberry, okay, which was Clementine, right? Yeah. And then now it's Strawberry. Cute application, makes sense. You probably discovered it on a KDE distro back in the day.
It's in the I think it's on the AUR. They no longer host it on the Arch repository.
Yeah, it's a good audio player. I like
For
Strawberry.
my music library, I use Audacious, and it's it's really good. You have
really
tabs for each folder, and it's highly reliable on it.
Yeah, and somebody in the chat, Darth Vader, he says he uses EMMS and Emacs. Yes, and then other people have talking about terminal players like CMUS, which I've used. I've used some of the MPD clients in the terminal. Tried several of them.
I never was able to get MPD running. So
now MPD is interesting because obviously it's you can stream music, and you have the server running in the background. And what's really interesting, you start the server, and then like if you log out of your desktop, one window manager, and log into the other, the music's still playing the whole time. You exit out of one window manager.
It still runs in the background?
Yeah, because the server's constantly running. Until you kill the server, it's going to keep running.
Yeah, server is the service.
Of course, you could stream from another computer in your house, or whatever, a web server, or whatever you're doing with MPD. It's a really neat piece of software if you have the need for that stuff. I've never really had the need for it. I've played with it a little bit, but these days I just have all my music locally stored on my drives, so I just use normal players. Here lately, I've been using Deadbeef.
The only reason I use Strawberry is because the metadata grabbing thing, you can use an online metadata thing where it grabs all the information about every album you have.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my music is movie or game soundtrack. I don't download your regular run-of-the-mill music. I just get soundtracks basically for either games or movie. That's it. Or audiobooks, of course. Audiobooks. I just got the. I spent $50 to get the entire Dune audiobooks collection. So
anybody else on audio players? Big Pod, what are you using?
I used to run MPD a lot back in the day.
Yeah,
I used to when I was biking a lot, and my old phone, the jack for 3.5mm jack didn't work. So what I did, I had a very low power laptop that was running Linux, and all I did was set it so it always is on. I put it into a backpack because it had a good battery, and I put MPD on that and headphones connecting to that laptop, and with my phone I was changing tracks with my phone.
I've always thought about just having a little computer, a little box somewhere that just stores all of my, a couple hundred gigs of music somewhere, and just have that as a music server that I can always play from any device, my mobile device, because you can get MPD on pretty much anything, MPD players on anything, and it makes sense, but I just haven't gone that route.
At one point, I also managed to sync a couple of I think it was 2 laptops and desktop with speakers. So I managed to sync them up using settings so that all 3 of them played at exactly the same time the music.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pain in the ass, but managed to make it work. And nowadays, I again browser. I just have I use a streaming service and I just play it in browser and that's it.
There's another Qt based audio player that I used to use until I discovered Strawberry Amarok.
I was just gonna say that because that's what I've used in the past.
And that was a real good one back in the day.
It's still maintained. It's still
I actually
maintained
really
by
like the GNOME Rhythm Box. Does anybody not use Rhythm Box? I actually think Rhythm Box is pretty
Another
good.
one I
never
use.
heard of mine.
Yeah, that Rhythm Box also works with MPD.
Yeah, and it's got all kinds of streaming services you can connect to if you're into.
Rhythm Box? I never heard of it.
It's the standard audio player on GNOME.
Yeah.
Have you never seen Rhythm Box? That's weird. Are they not shipping that now with GNOME?
They might have shipped
the speaker. It was at least on Ubuntu. It was shipped by default. It's that speaker you see in the menu.
The speaker. Yeah, the icon.
Yeah.
Another
Of course,
one
now they probably call it a generic name like audio or something, right?
Well, I didn't listen to music when I was using GNOME because I used it for such a short while. Okay, I was maintaining a GNOME version of Zero Linux, but I didn't use GNOME. So
I can't remember. Rhythm Box may even be able to play video. There's a few of these things obviously can do both video and audio content. Obviously, VLC. If you wanted one program to install and do everything, VLC obviously handles pretty much all multimedia formats.
There's another one called Shortwave. It's for streaming radio stations, your local radio stations.
Yep.
There's one local radio station. To me, it's like 20 minutes away. I listen to that. Nostalgie. It's a French oldies radio station. I added it manually. The nice part of Shortwave, you can go to their website, submit a radio station, they will accept it.
Yeah, and
it's also radioactive for other stations.
Yeah.
Somebody showed demo how to use it some time ago, I think.
Yep, yeah, it's a really nice program.
Yeah.
I'm using. I have used Sayonara, which is equivalent to Deadbeat.
Ooh, yeah.
Just about.
I've tried that out before too. Yeah. Yeah, in the chat, sprinkled. A's correcting us. GNOME has a new music player now called Music. Okay.
Talk about generic names.
Yeah. Kind of like they did. Aren't they doing a new terminal now? It's because the GNOME terminal wasn't good enough. Let's create a new terminal. What are we going to call it? Terminal. That's the name. Terminal.
And the binary has one of the most horrible names I can't even pronounce. KB something something something. A really horrible name.
Yeah.
And X is somewhere in there. And so on.
Yeah, Rhythm Box is a GTK3 music player more than a GNOME Pro. Well, I mean, I don't know if it. I thought it was part of the official GNOME project, maybe at one point. But even if it's GTK3, I mean, what's wrong with GTK3?
Most
most GTK apps are still on GTK3 anyway. Most of them haven't moved to GTK4.
Yep. But yes, music players. There's so many, but the one that is perfect for me is Strawberry. It does everything.
Yeah. Alexandro says Rhythm Box could sync with the old iPods. Well, that'll depend on the distribution and
if they ship the
libraries
iTunes
for
driver, yeah.
Right, because not everything can connect to that stuff.
I can say that because right now I'm talking to you on my iPhone as a webcam connected to Linux over Wi-Fi because guess why? Linux, Arch Linux, I can't find a driver that works that makes OBS recognize my phone connected via cable.
Yeah. I know Ubuntu back in the day. I remember Ubuntu like 15 years ago. You could just plug in an iPod and it would sync. And, but that was part of Mark Shuttleworth, who is the founder of Canonical and Ubuntu. He's an Apple fanboy, so he wants all his devices to work on Ubuntu. So
yeah, there is a driver.
But most distributions, syncing your iDevice is probably not going to.
It's a nightmare. It recognizes it when I connect my iPhone over cable to Arch Linux. It recognizes it as a storage device. I can see the applications and whatever. But as a webcam,
Mm-hmm.
So as a connoisseur of like high production audio or high quality audio, I did quite some investment in a proper setup. Let's call it that way. Yeah, it's an infinite loop, and there goes your fine developer salary, but it is what it is. So I have two stereos. a Jetson Nano and a Raspberry Pi, all in a network with a dedicated router that like is able to throughput 4K video, 60 frames a second. So in theory, I could basically ingest an SRT media stream or any live stream, for instance, from up to any quality, ingest it into my Jetson that re-encodes it for my TV, and then play it with a Kodi backend.
Yeah,
that is
because
also
not
linked.
all TV. Yeah, because not all TVs recognize all audio formats.
I knew Stefan was going to hit it out of the park with this discussion. I knew if somebody was going to have some weird setup, he was
it all works really well. I can also like control it with my MPD on my local machine that is also hooked up to the storage.
My namesake.
Can you control it with your phone?
For sure. I
Absolutely.
can also stream.
I mean, that's what I want. I want to be able to pull out my Android phone and stream something.
Yeah, I can basically pull up a Twitch stream if I wanted to, and watch it on TV. And
contact me on Discord at some point because I want you to help me set up because I have a Raspberry Pi and I cannot figure out what to use it for. It's just sitting here. There's one problem I need to fix. I need to buy another HDMI to mini HDMI, micro HDMI converter because I broke this one. It fell on the floor and it bent. But I want you to help because I want to turn it into something useful because I don't want to throw it. Otherwise, I will end up throwing it in the garbage. And it's too important of a waste.
No. Just use Kodi or similar and you'll be fine.
HTPC I already have.
Okay,
No, I want to turn it into something like you said, like in audio, because I don't listen to my music because it's on a PC that I can rarely turn on.
Okay.
So that idea of music streaming on my phone or anywhere, because I'm always on the same network, either in the store or at the house, it's all on the same network. I don't listen to music when I'm with people.
Yeah, you basically hook up the Raspberry Pi to your file storage and you should be fine.
Well, I want to set up like yours. I can stream on my phone and stuff.
Yeah.
We'll talk it later on Discord.
Yeah. Write me about your setup details. But I wanted to do it on the phone. The only thing that's a single pain in the butt, to be honest, is like audio ingest to Linux. Either it's too loud or too silent. So I basically just started offloading as much as possible to analog and basically just put in a USB audio signal and hope that works with Pipewire. But it just does wonky things. I don't know, DT, about you, but I always have to check microphone input before every call.
Oh, yeah. Every
single one. Okay.
Before this call, the first thing I did was make sure.
Make sure your level is fine. I don't know why this happens. I can't. There must be some, I don't know, some magic little wizard sitting inside that machine that just changes some value and nobody's.
It's even more frustrating recording. Because if you don't, you may not do it when you first start recording audio and video, but like if you're doing podcasting or YouTube videos or whatever, but that very first time you record for 2 hours and then go back and listen to it, and there is either no audio or it recorded the wrong audio input, and it's such bad audio you can't even fix it, and you realize you wasted that entire 2 hours of recording. Forever from that day forward, you're going to check before every single recording.
Yeah. I have it visible on my OBS screen, so I can always make sure it's on the nice -6 dB.
Stefan,
Pipewire is pretty nice to me these days. I don't have to check anything anymore because it is always set on a specific input, and even though I have like 5 inputs, it's never on anything else.
No, I thought he was going to say, I'm on Windows now. I don't have to check any of that stuff. It just works.
No. Stefan, have you heard of a piece of software called Volumio?
I have not.
a viewer, one of the viewers sent it to me on Discord. It's transform your Raspberry Pi with Volumio's innovative software to a streaming thing. So.
You could do as well. There's a bunch of software out there for various use cases. Like if you want to focus on video, there's a way to focus on 4K 60 frames video. If you want to focus on audio, there's another way.
All right.
I just figured Kodi seems to be the middle ground
to
make
Kodi,
everything
I tried
happen
Kodi,
in the network.
Kodi, if you don't start using all these illegal crap, it's not very useful. You have to configure everything manually.
You have to configure it manually, though. Yeah. You have to go through quite some configuration and make sure everything is set accordingly to each one of its rates, and then it works fine. Yeah. Use a configuration repository and make sure you don't copy past a configuration. That's all I can share.
But that's interesting. I will check Volumio out.
Sure.
See if I can turn my Raspberry Pi into something useful, because since I'm moving soon, I'm going to transform the NAS system into a home lab. I'm going to have Homer and a lot of Docker containers on it.
Make sure you use an orchestrator.
A what?
An orchestrator.
I don't know what that is.
For Podman or Kubernetes or
okay. I'm just gonna use the only thing I know how to
be. I'm an expert on this stuff.
Add more layers of complexity. That's what I want to.
No, I'm gonna use Portainer. I'm just gonna use Portainer and stacks.
No, you need a container. You need a container orchestration for your single unit distributed system. You know?
He said he's gonna use an orchestrator called Stacks. He's taken care of. I literally use Kubernetes.
I'm trolling. Yeah,
I literally use Kubernetes.
Single unit distributed systems.
But it's not single unit distributed system. It's
of course it is.
Five nodes.
Okay, it's okay.
4 work nodes and 1 controller node.
In the chat, Linux View, he's talking about Winamp was his favorite player. You can still get some Winamp like players on Linux. There's XMMP, I believe, is
XMNP,
yeah, is a Winamp clone essentially. It works on Linux.
Yeah, but the problem with that
uses even some
of
the Winamp skins and things.
Yeah, the problem with that one is it doesn't scale very well on high DPI.
Well, because it's a Winamp clone. Winamp was written at a time when computers were 480p.
Well, you want to know a secret? Why do you want to use a fork? Just use regular Winamp through Wine. It works.
Winamp has newer releases too, so it's not.
Yeah, they came back.
People want the Winamp on Windows 95. That's the one.
No, they want Real Player on Windows 95. That's
Real Player.
Oh my god! Oh my god! The worst player that ever existed. Oh my god!
Honestly,
when I asked for video players, I'm surprised nobody said Windows Media Player or anything like.
I just said MPC. MPC is a fork of Windows Media Player.
But if you would have said
that's not
Real Player,
the right version.
If you would have said Real Player, Steve, I wouldn't have batted an eye.
Real Player,
dude. Real Player had the worst format at like 8 kilobits.
But it was beautiful in its disaster.
Beautiful in its disaster. I love what you just said right
Well,
there.
the great thing about Linux is we have so many audio and video players, and they're all good. Like
Celluloid is out there. Yep.
Okay.
I actually was. I think years ago when I was using Amarok, I had an install of Linux and an install of Windows. You could use it in Windows.
Mm.
It was really not bad for managing a library.
But the gist of what I said was that surprisingly on Linux, if you have a Windows portable app, a classic portable app, I'm talking not proprietary, I mean by cracked apps or pirated apps or anything, just freeware, Windows portable freeware, more chances than not, the chances are very high that they would work through Wine on Linux.
Yeah, any older software typically will work with Wine. It's the new stuff that's going to be the problem.
Yeah. So that's what I do basically. I don't use anything system related. I just or browsers or anything. Just classic audio players, video players, classic emulators, classic stuff like that. I have them as portable. Always have. I have this thumb drive, 128 gig thumb drive that only has 200 megs free, full of portable Windows apps. And when I'm in a crunch and I can't find an alternative for Linux, I just use the Windows portable binary via Wine.
You know, a similar thing I wanted to ask related to this multimedia question was obviously we all want to sync our phones. What are you guys using? Are you just using KDE Connect or GS Connect or whatever GNOME uses? Or you don't ever sync your phone? No.
Yeah, I don't either.
If I need to copy,
I don't either. I just upload to the cloud.
I mean, this is weird because I don't either because I have my Nextcloud where I can pull things down on all of my computers and my phone from Nextcloud if I really want to.
If I want to access a file from my phone, I just okay. I don't know if it's going to send anyone spinning, but there's this thing on Telegram called saved messages. It's basically messages you want to save for later, but I use it to push files between the desktop and the phone.
Is that safe?
Telegram used to be safe, but not anymore. But I don't push private data.
I mean, I know their servers are proprietary. I'm not talking about free versus proprietary. I'm just saying, is it safe in general? I mean,
not really. It's being used to share movies and TV shows between you.
I wouldn't want to send like sensitive documents or something.
I don't send sensitive documents. I just send links to myself. I send configuration files for myself. I don't send passwords or usernames.
Yeah.
If I need to copy lots of stuff from my phone because I use my phone as a camera and I record video separately from audio, I literally plug in my phone into my laptop because it has a USB-C port and my phone has USB-C to USB-C cable at high speeds. And then I just SSHD or SCP from my laptop to my desktop. Because gigabit speeds, why not?
A few weeks ago, I was experimenting with SyncThing as an alternative to using Nextcloud for all of my computer. And SyncThing actually is pretty good syncing a phone to a computer. Now, when you get multiple connections,
I had so many issues syncing my Android to my either my laptop or my desktop. It was always going out of sync, never correctly syncing. Like
I think SyncThing is fascinating. I think for new users, it's so easy to set up. You know, where a new user, you can't expect them to spin up a Nextcloud server. Like they're not going to do it. But Nextcloud is definitely a better solution. Yeah, it just requires more work because you got to actually set up a web server and then install Nextcloud on it.
Actually, if you use like Vultr, which most people are moving away from, DigitalOcean and stuff like that, they have one-click apps for setting up Nextcloud. It makes it super easy to update because I used to have
it's like
all kinds of issues with updates.
It's actually at a lot of places that offer like decent hosting that you get these.
Because you really do need that one-click option because most new users are not going to set up a LAMP stack and do all that themselves. They wouldn't even know where to begin.
I was playing around with Amazon EC2s these days and was actually quite surprised to find a lot of pre-configured open source packages working quite well out of the box. So I guess it makes a lot of sense for various hosts to make sure these are easy to install.
Amazon. Why are you using Amazon? Use something better.
What's wrong with Amazon?
I'm not the biggest fan of Amazon's cloud.
Are you going to push Microsoft? Is that where we're going? I'm waiting for it.
I was just going to ask.
While I do like Microsoft Cloud, I personally say any other cloud is better than Amazon. Like, at least in my opinion, too many people just default to AWS, even though in my opinion it isn't actually
I was
great.
not. I was not defaulting to AWS. I was choosing very deliberately for.
That's why I use Amazon, because everybody else is using it. But seriously, when you look for solutions for things online that involve any kind of cloud storage or anything, it's all about Amazon. It's just is.
And the fact, the reason I use iCloud, I still use iCloud's what's it called, free tier, 5 gigabytes, because I don't back up my WhatsApp. I don't back up any sensitive data. I just use it to if I take a picture on my phone, I like to have access to it using a browser on.
5 gigs is not. I mean, I know it's free storage, but that's really tiny.
I know, but you know how much I'm using out of it? I'm using 1 gig. And I've had this phone literally since 2019.
But literally, you could take like a 60-second selfie video of yourself, and you're going to fill up half that.
Yeah, I say not to sync videos. I told it specifically not to sync videos. If I want to access that video, I send it, like I said, on saved messages on Telegram, and on Telegram I can access it whenever, because they keep, until I delete it, of course, but they keep everything forever, basically, because I told it to keep everything forever. So, yeah, that's the way I do it. And I don't sync to the cloud anything except a few very needy things. But other than that, I don't want to give Apple access to anything.
Apple Cloud.
I do find it interesting, because we were the nerdy crowd, and I know people in our chat probably expected at least one, if not multiple of us, to use a terminal-based audio player or a terminal-based video. Like, nobody used FFmpeg for anything, or FFplay. Nobody. Like, that's weird that we were the crowd that was going to answer FFplay, but none of us did.
I tried FFplay. I didn't want to alias all my commands for FFplay.
I use FFplay for interactive terminal use, like when I'm testing some service, for instance. When I
use it in my scripts, like if I'm scripting something, I want to play it. But I would never purposely go and start an audio stream with FFplay. Like, why would I do that when I have VLC installed?
Speaking of that, I was surprised the other day. That old machine that I put together in the store downstairs out of spare parts. It's an old Athlon XP from 2004, 2003. The processor doesn't have the SSE2 instruction set. If you don't know what it is, Google it. But because of that, VLC will not run the GUI. Whenever I double click an audio file, it will open a terminal thing, and it will start playing the audio in the background, because the CPU that cannot handle the GUI of VLC.
You need to update that machine.
I updated it to the latest of everything thanks to legacyupdate.net. It's Windows XP Media Center Edition 2002, updated to the max using Legacy Update up to 2022. Surprising. But because that CPU, hardware-wise, CPU cannot handle the SSE2 instruction set, which VLC 32-bit requires to render the GUI. I have an Nvidia 7800 GS GPU in there, 256 megs. But back then, it was super powerful. But because of the SSE2 thing, when I run an audio file or a video file, VLC refuses to run the GUI. It says SSE2 instruction set error whatever, and it just launches a terminal, and it just plays the video or the audio.
It's a shame you can't grab an app image, right?
Well, I'm on Windows, so
you're right. That's why it was a joke, right?
But that's my terminal. If you want, that's my terminal media player experience.
No. Yeah, Alexandros in the chat, MOC, which is music on console. Yeah, that's a good terminal music player too.
I did use one that streams audio from online. You give it a URL and it will stream it in terminal. I forgot the name of it, but the output it just echoes out the title of the track using the metadata.
Most good audio players should have the ability to feed it a URL, and it should just like MPV can do that in the terminal. You just feed it a URL.
Dude, MPV has abilities that I think they surpass VLC.
Well, not necessarily. VLC builds on some stuff that.
Yeah, but it's VLC is an interface,
right?
Basically.
And MPV, you can overlay any interface you want on top of it.
But MPV does have a lot of capabilities that most users have no idea about, because how would you find out about these things when you open an MPV player? It's literally just a window frame with with video playing. Like it doesn't have a menu system that you'd go explore and things like. It doesn't.
You need third-party GUI on top of it,
right? Like MPV really, even like the man page, like who in the hell is going to read that thing? For one thing, it's massive, and it's.
MPV does have a mouse overlay though.
Yeah.
It's there, so you can.
I mean, it's got some mouse functionality. Yeah. The scroll wheel works, as far as adjusting the volume and things like it works if you've
like
never
a
actually
player.
Right. I mean, it's got some stuff to it.
My only complaint is, why doesn't Plex use MPV as a backend for video and audio playback?
Well, pretty much every audio or every video player, especially, usually uses MPV as a dependency.
Yeah, but not Plex. Plex have their own, and trust me, when it comes to 4K high bitrate uncompressed movies or TV shows, it struggles.
But that struggles.
No, Plex.
Oh,
because
Plex.
they have their own proprietary
MPV. I've never heard any complaints.
Locally. You mean
locally.
That's strange. That thing.
Yeah, it bottlenecks. It crashes. I'm like, but they do have an option buried in the settings where you can select a third-party player if you really want to. But you have to find the setting and you have to configure it, and there's a whole config behind it. I'm like,
Yeah, in the chat, people are asking about VLC. Yeah, it does have extensions as far as being more featureful than MPV.
Yeah,
some of the things why I keep VLC around is VLC has a really nice way to turn on and off different audio tracks. Like if it's a multi-track, and that's really nice. Like as a musician, if I was playing, for example, I'm a trombone player. If I was playing something for trombone and piano, I could record myself playing the trombone, somebody else playing the piano on two different streams, and I could play back each, on a single stream to listen to each or whatever it happens to be. That's nice. Or podcasting, if you're recording everybody on a different stream, sometimes you want to just check out that one person for some reason.
Yeah, it's got a lot of these, but it's, I don't know if it's for anyone else, but I noticed that VLC uses way more resources than MPV.
Well, of course. I mean, it's a is it a Qt out? What toolkit is VLC using? Is it? Pretty sure it's Qt, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. VLC, I don't think it's Qt. Otherwise, they would have Qt.
Thing.
Are they using their own toolkit?
Yeah.
Or they might be using the.
It's going to be heavier than MPV. I mean, MPV we already discussed really doesn't have a UI.
That's why I like MPV. It's very light. Yeah. It does what you need it to do, and that's it. So,
well, if all you need to do is play a video, I mean, that's
you can copy. You can literally copy a link from YouTube to a YouTube video and paste it in MPV. And
but VLC definitely does have some features in its menu. Like if you go search through the menu, it's got a lot of interesting things that most people are never going to need to play with. But if you need them, that's
you can do transcoding with VLC. You can do.
That's not great. The transcoding is not the best.
Huh. I've done it before when nothing else worked. And
I used to. Hey, you reminded me when I used to transcode with QuickTime.
QuickTime. Let's get a last word from everybody because we're here at the end of our 2 hours. George, you want to give us a last word to send us out? I don't know if he's around. I might come back to him if he's not.
No, I'm here. Thanks for hosting again, and fun as always. And keep it up. It's all good.
All right. Appreciate it, George. Stefan, give us some words of wisdom.
Oof, wisdom is a hard task, I guess.
Yeah, and speed it up because Aliens, his updates keep increasing. He now has 383 updates on Fedora that he needs to take. So
run updates very deliberately. That's my last word.
All right, appreciate that, Stephen.
Thank
Big
you.
Bud, give us the last word. He says only 2 days ago, 383 updates. Wow.
Check out No Tax Allowed podcast. And yeah. I'm writing a thesis project on Kubernetes.
Nice. Everybody's stoked about that.
Yeah. I really don't get how people can write books. I can barely write a full page of stuff, and I already completely lose. Like,
I can understand how
will
people
to
can
write.
write. I can understand how people can write things like fiction or even some nonfiction stuff, tutorial stuff, as long as it's not something that's constantly changing. But like writing books on like Linuxy stuff, open source software stuff, literally when it gets published, it's already out of date. Yep. So why waste your time, right?
I need to write 50 A4 pages on Kubernetes. Yeah.
You know how many books on Python I've picked up?
Yeah.
And I realized, man, this thing was written 15 years ago. It's garbage. And you just thought, I don't even start reading it. I already know it. I'm wasting my time even reading that thing. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, Big Bud. And I appreciate you making the exception of showing up for this because, you know, you weren't going to show up for Steve's. So I appreciate that. All right, Murray, give us the last word.
I got a couple of utilities that you might find. A replacement for NeoFetch called FastFetch. It looks just like it, but it's twice as much information and it handles multi-monitor.
And faster.
And
it's a lot faster.
I like using nothing.
It's in the
I don't use a fetch
RJUR.
tool, but I will post this in the chat for those that do.
There's blee.sh. I don't know if anyone's come across it. I discovered a few. You source it into your bash RC and it brings fish to your terminal. It gives you your highlighting if you mistype the app, it will show it in red until you correct the spelling or if it's not in your path. And if you hit ls tab, it'll give you a pick list of all the apps that start with that. And it's on GitHub. It's called blee.sh. And it's a staple now. I use it all the time.
What is that?
Blee.sh, BLE.sh. You source it in your bash RC. It's on GitHub.
Okay, I found it. And I will link to that in the YouTube chat for those that want.
If you're into Python, there's an app called Jupyter Desktop. It has one button installed. It simplifies the use of it. It's really easy to use. It's the equivalent of PyCharm, but you use it in your browser, and it's a good way to learn Python. So the Jupyter Desktop on that. And another thing, you made it to tuxurls.com there, Derek. You're in the list on that site. I don't know if you ever seen it before. You're beside Luke Smith and Kent Brody, somebody.
Yeah, that has been up for many years, which you can tell because they probably would have never heard of Luke Smith, who hasn't made a video in like 3 years. Right?
I know. He went out in the woods somewhere, and now he's in Monaco or someplace like that.
No.
Okay, and last thing, a couple of more sci-fi movies. The Fifth Element, free on YouTube. The Fifth Element with Bruce Willis.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, and there's one that's more fantasy called The Postman's Ruse. It's a Harry Potter type fantasy, but for adults. 3 hours long. You'll know in the first 5 minutes if you like it or not. And it's about conflict between current technology and new technology. So it's a 2-part movie, but in one stream, called The Postman's Ruse. And that will be it for me this time.
All right. Thanks, Murray. And I don't think Aliens is mic'd up, but he's been chatting with us. Obviously, he's got a lot of updates he needs to take, so he probably should go ahead and run that update. Steve, you want to send us out with some last words?
Simple last word this week around, this month around. After this, everyone, go grab a pizza with pineapples.
No.
That's nihilism.
Hawaiian pizza. If you and to make it better, add some cayenne pepper on top.
Yeah, that's like the worst thing ever. I don't understand how people eat ham and pineapple or ham and pineapple on a pizza, especially. But even just ham and pineapple. It's like I understand sweet and salty together, but it doesn't work for me. I'm sorry.
Better yet, add some chicken.
All right, Steve. Well, I hope you guys have a good podcast. One of you guys, are y'all streaming or are you just pre-recording it?
Pre-recording, and I'm editing. And
when does it get
He's doing
released?
everything, basically. When
does it get released for the public?
I'm just the idea guy.
Today, I just have to do another QC on today's episode, and then it's gonna be live. So
I just want to make sure everybody in the chat knows
hour and a half
when to look for it. All right. Well, my last word is thanking everybody for being here on the stream and for those of you hanging out in the YouTube chat. And other than that, I'm going to show some names on the screen to thank some of the patrons that couldn't be with us here on camera. And other than that, why don't we name our favorite sci-fi movies of all time?
June.
2001 Space Odyssey.
June.